everybody, this is Isha Snehal and you are watching Snehology 101. I know you're thinking, Happy Halloween! Okay, so this is me and today I'm going to talk about interviews and the questions they ask in interview, and let's go from there. So let's begin with this. Every single interview will have some sort of a pattern to it. And to really nail an interview, you need to know your answers very well. So well that it comes out like a free-flowing conversation. Some practice with other people, other candidates will really give you a head start on nailing your interviews. So let me give you a list and basically like the most common questions that every single residency interview will contain. And actually not just residency interview. Literally every interview will have these questions in some form or the other. So let's start one by one. Number one is why this specialty or why this line of your job. Here you will actually tell them that these are the reasons, these are specific reasons why I wanted to get into the specialty. You can take some ideas from your personal statement where you would have mentioned why you wanted and how you ended up choosing this specialty in the first place. Number two would be why this university. You should have very specific answers here. Don't be vague like, oh, I like this place. Oh, this somebody else recommended it to me. Don't be that vague when you're going into an interview. Always have some standard or some thought out researched answers about that university. For example, like for neurology, you have some universities have these extravagant facilities for a particular disease, and suppose you were interested in that disease, you would want to train there, so you can talk about it. Like some universities have these comprehensive research centers, comprehensive stroke centers, big some universities are big on epilepsy, or stuff like that, something that's that specific. Or some universities have a focus on rehabilitation, or some facilities really want to focus on research and produce a lot of papers. And this is if that is something you're interested in, you can bring that up in your interview and talk about it. And that kind of will match your ambitions as well. So that is what the interviewer wants to gauge, is that how passionate you are about that specialty and how passionate you are about that university and getting there and being part of the resident group. Number three would be why this place. You might land up in an interview which is literally away from your family and friends, and this would be a valid question for an interviewer to know, because he or she would want to know, where would you be taking a lot of vacations? Would you be missing your family and friends a lot, or would you actually settle in this place very well? Of course, with international students, it's going to be a different game altogether, but with US students, this always becomes a question. And in fact, a lot of US students do choose their universities on the basis of location and the closeness to their family and friends. So this is something that everybody should think about and have very valid and specific reasons why that place is good for you and what you will say in the interview. Number four is talking about your CV and personal statement. Well, there will be these nitty-gritties that you would have mentioned in your CV and personal statement that would not seem very important to you, but actually they are, and it will be brought up in your interviews a lot of times. Stuff about your hobbies, stuff about your research. You should know every single thing detailed in your research, from the introduction to the methodology to the way statistics was conducted, because you will be asked about it. And you will also be asked by when you will be publishing your paper. So these things and these details are important, and you should always keep that in mind. Number five, every interview will always contain this question. What are your ambitions in the next 5 or 10 years? And you should be ready with an answer. If you are a resident who's literally going to study there for 4 years or 3 years, you might not have many differences by the end of 5 years. What they really want to ask you is, do you have like a super specialty in mind? Do you want to super specialize? Or do you want to go into a private practice? Do you want to be in academics? Do you want to go back to your home country or something like that? Do you have any particular ambitions in the next 5 to 10 years? And if so, you should have very specific answers. Or if you're not very sure about it, but still kind of give some specific answers. Like you can say like, I love research and I love clinical practice of medicine, and I want to do a mix of both. So that will give the interviewer an idea that this person is interested in both these things and will be a valuable addition to our facility, which focuses on both of these things. And of course, like if they focus more on research, they might not prefer you. So do your background research when you're going into the interview, all right? Number 6, a very important question everybody asks you is that what do you exactly look for in a residency? And here is where you talk about research, clinical medicine, more internal medicine exposure if you're going directly into a super specialty, or what are the opportunities that are offered at that university, like future opportunities, fellowships, away rotations, all those things, like an extra care for wellness of the residents, how their schedules should be made, etc. These things are something to think of when you're forming these answers for your interviews. Number 7 is, do you have any questions? By the way, every single interviewer is going to ask you this question. Do you have any questions for me? And there is where you're supposed to ask questions. Do not blank out. Do not end up asking questions. 1 or 2 questions is an ideal number. So there can be several questions like, do you provide autonomy to your residents? Do you have any procedures that they practice for? Do you have clinic time? How do you manage clinic and inpatient? How is the relationship between residents and faculty? Is there an open door policy? How is the wellness taken care of? Or how is the compensation here? What are the ways of living? Where do residents live? And these questions can also be asked from the residents when you have these meet and greets. Also can be asked from the faculty. So you can choose from a list of questions that are always present on the web, and you can always ask about research and other opportunities that are provided at the institution. So those are like very good questions that you can always come up with. And since there are like 4 or 5 faculty members who will be interviewing you, you should ask different questions from every faculty member. So this was a summary of the most common questions always asked in a residency interview or any other interview. And it is always a good idea to practice before going in, because at that time you want to be confident and you do not want to wander off while answering the questions. So it's always good to have a practice session one-on-one with other candidates or with your parents or with your friends. Tell them, give them this list of questions and ask them to ask you these questions. And with that, all the very best for the residency interviews, for any other interviews, for your exams and your life. And please like, share and subscribe. And see you again next time. All the very best. Happy Halloween. Bye.